All right, folks, welcome to the runningrestaurants.com podcast. We're bringing the tips, tools, and techniques you need to know to make your restaurant more profitable and successful. I'm your host, Jamie Oikle. Today, got a great episode for you, revisiting with David DeLorenzo, otherwise known as DeLo, who's the owner and founder of bar and restaurant insurance.com. But we're going to talk more than insurance because DeLo's plugged into a whole bunch of stuff in the industry. So it's going to be fun to see what's going on in his world. DeLo, how are you, man? What's going on in your neck of the woods?
I'm great, brother. Summertime is upon us in Arizona, so we hit our first 100s last week, and enjoying the mornings now.
Didn't you guys have the stretch of a billion days in a row of 117 degrees?
Yeah, last year we did. Usually the end of April, right about this time come May, it's summertime from May all the way to the end of October.
Well, I won't preach too hard because I'm in Florida. We have similar, this part of the year just heats up. So, but I'm not going to say we go to the 117s, but I'm starting to feel it. The weather's changed. Let's get into a whole bunch of stuff. I want to talk about the different things you're doing, but maybe let's start with insurance real quickly for folks. And we're going to hit a bunch of topics, but what's kind of either new in your space or what do folks definitely need to make sure they're doing as far as insurance coverage? And I'll let you kind of roll a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk insurance. So I was asked to put some information, or I was interviewed by the Insurance Journal a couple episodes back, and we talked hospitality, and a little bit of, from that article, and what we had talked about is kind of, what's going on in the marketplace, and specifically with hospitality, because that's what I do. And I've been doing it for 30 years. So I've seen what's called a hard market. I'm sure a lot of people watching this, if they've talked to their broker and then they see that their rates are up 20, 30, some cases 50%. It's a common term that's used. Hey, it's a hard market. And the truth of the matter is, hospitality people, restaurant owners, they don't really care. They don't understand what that means. But when you look at it from the conceptuality of it's business, if the insurance carrier is having a hard time, reinvesting money or actually making money on top of their money, therefore everybody's going to suffer. If you look at it, from let's just say a United States spectrum, or even a worldly spectrum, you look at State Farm, they've got downgraded to a B+. That is huge. People don't understand how big that is. And they may not have State Farm, and it may not be related to them, but as the industry as a whole, when something like that happens, it does have a triggering effect on other carriers, what they do, what reinsurance carriers do, and how they reinvest into, into places. And so then what ends up happening is there's a sacrifice of, coverages and coverage form. And as we had talked in 2020, everybody had the question, like, is business income covered? And of course it wasn't. I didn't have a single case where it was, and we don't need to go down that rabbit hole again. Thank God we're past all that for everybody's, perspective. But the fact of the matter is now we're running into, social justice verdicts and all sorts of stuff where a lot of plaintiff attorneys are out there, and they really need to make their Mercedes bills and their 10,000 square foot house bills. And so you're seeing a lot more, lawsuits out there. And unfortunately, at least in the state of Arizona, you can sue anybody for anything. And then it's up to the, the defendant, being the restaurateur, and the insurance company representing them to, show that they weren't negligent, to show that something hadn't, or had not happened. Look, restaurant owners, they're busy. I mean, at the end of the day, I get it. I've owned 13 restaurants. Your bottom line's about this much, sometimes that much. And the fact of the matter is to really organize and train and do all these things that you say that you really want to do. And I think you have that perspective and that passion to want to do it, but you're just too busy. You got to serve food, and you got to get people in the door, and you got to make them happy. And so there's so many other things that need to be done that without technology, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, because I've started a company based on that, but without technology and a little bit of an extra helping hand and things that happen, you're still doing stuff the old school way. You're doing stuff with, the folder, the pen and the paper. You're hoping people are signing off on stuff. You're hoping that you're collecting data if and when, or there may be a claim. And I can't tell you how many times I've had people's first claim or their second claim And they just, they have all good intentions to have all of this stuff documented and put together. But at the end of the day, what ends up happening is these lawsuits get drug out,
Right.
for a year, 2 year, 3 years. I have a slip and fall right now that's 4 years old, and the demand just came back last week, $2.6 million. We're talking a slip and fall of a lady that stepped up on a platform. She requested, okay, the seat out on the patio. The platform's this big. This is about 6 inches, if you can see. And requested that, had a few drinks, and then upon leaving the establishment, even on her own free will, she left. Even after she tripped off of the, off of the step that she knew that she was on top of. 4 years later, a demand for 2.6 million. That's not the biggest deal, because generally what ends up happening is the plaintiff attorneys will say, hey, I want this much, and they settle for this much, because plaintiff attorneys generally don't want to go in front of a jury. They're not looked at as, the epitome of society, right? But, no offense, whatever. But the fact of the matter is that this, this drug out for so long with no documentation, no video footage, nothing to go by but their word and their word. And then what ends up happening is, because of the time span and how long it goes, you have defense costs, you have attorneys, drawing up bills, you have medical costs, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of money that ends up being paid out anyways.
Yeah. That's that's no one's funnest process there at all. So let's let's go back to, let's kind of go where you mentioned before I got on the call with Dilo, and I know him for years now, but we talked about what else is going on, and you mentioned the startup that you just hinted at, kind of in the tech space and the insurance space, overlapping with your experience going back a whole bunch of years. So that is a pain point for restaurant operators, or at least you're voicing it as a pain point. Data collection, doing the stuff, checking the boxes, being covered for the things you say you should be covered for. How are you using tech to start to get around that? Tell me about it.
Well, to parlay my story now and kind of talk about, with my 30 years of, building this agency. And I would say in the last 20 years, I've been, pen and paper, writing down ideas, things, watching claims happen, watching if we had this video footage for this much longer, this could have been paid out at, at this instead of this. If we had other, sign-offs, if we had better training, a lot of things could be avoided. And a lot of the, at the end of the day, it's not just necessarily saving the insurance company money on claims, but it's saving the restaurateur money, because if the insurance company's not paying out all of these quote unquote, some claims obviously are legit. There's a lot of frivolous claims out there that just end up getting paid defense costs. So if we can, take that down a little bit or a lot, just based on having technology and having that help and not putting any more burden on the restaurateur, then guess what? Your rates are going to go down. Bottom line. I mean, what do because you're not going to have the amount of frequency of claims or the excessive, let's just say, damages and stuff like that. So what I've been doing over the last 20 years is just kind of documenting all of these case studies and all of these sort of situations that happen. So a couple years ago, I ended up running into this. At the time, he was 19. He's now 21. He's a 21-year-old, let's just say, robot. He reminds me of C-3PO. I'm not going to call him, let's just say, I won't call him Zuckerberg, but let's just say that avatar of that type of person, when you talk to him and they just kind of, do this, and they're thinking about stuff. And then all of a sudden they just, this 21-year-old, he literally has the mindset and the, and how do I say, the ability to chat like a 55-year-old. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
So I ran into him and I said, look, they had started, him and another partner, Brian and Adam, they had started a company where they were going to do training. Brian has a hospitality background. Adam's just a whiz kid. excuse me. So they had started a training app, to just kind of, do training for hotels, restaurants, stuff like that, where you could do, people could go in, they could log into their account and then basically do whatever it was, food handling training, liquor training, all those things that, but more like, cartoonish style, and then being able to take quizzes, and then the managers can see, who passed their quizzes, what questions they passed, all that sort of stuff. And then it's all documented and it's all saved. And, albeit great idea on its own, but they wanted to charge the restaurants for this. And I'm just kind of like, and so they'd come to me because they knew that I had a huge insurance, how do I say, restaurant book of business. And so they were looking at that book of business. I said, guys, I go, people aren't going to pay for that. Restaurants, they just don't have the money to pay so much per month to do this. They're barely making it as it is. I go, we got to figure out a better way. But also I have an idea to kind of integrate insurance and to integrate, hospitality together, and then give this to the restaurants for free. Let's make the insurance companies pay for it. So we figured out a back end way to do all this and to create a product that's going to streamline the processes of when somebody gets an inspection or they have an audit, and even the training protocols that are, sometimes asked about, or if they have a claim, all the data and all the information that they have is already saved, from liquor certificate trainings to all the other stuff, and eventually I'll talk about it in a minute, camera footage. So we created this app. We raised, I think it was like 1.8 million, and
wow.
Even prior to pre-seed, we had a lot of great, let's just say Silicon Valley sorts of people invest in this. And then we had a major insurance company invest in it as well. And they're going to be our platform. They're hospitality specific only, and they're going to be our platform to launch it into all 10,000 of their clients.
Nice.
So what we're able to do is give this gift to all of their clients who are all hospitality related, to be like, look, here's the deal. Use it as you see fit, because we're still, look, when Facebook first came out, people were unsure. They're like, I don't know what, to do with this or whatever. You're almost changing people's habits. You're changing the way that they do business. And we understand that with this app and with what's going on. But we also understand that the wave of the future it's coming. No matter what, it's coming. You can look online in the Insurance Journal and see all the different companies that are trying to do different things, hey, remote sensor technology, this and that. But what we're doing is we're creating an app that's specific to restaurants, bars, taverns, coffee shops, all that helps them with buying back time, with processes. Imagine if you could onboard an employee through our app, which is called Sinatra. It's actually live on the Apple Store.
Okay.
It's all put together.
Yeah.
But imagine if you could, basically onboard an employee, with a link sent over to them from their house, and they're able to take a quiz and understand your menu. You can send pre-shift out to all of your employees. Here's the pre-shift of what we're doing, for this day or this week. Here's the, the new menu items. So all of it is actually going to be very specific to the location. And we're going to have, an integrated background of AI to actual customer service that's going to help build it out, even specific to the restaurateur themselves. So not only will they get the generic training per their state, but we can also put together training that's, very specific to their establishment and to the things that because we understand that everybody runs a different business. Sure. Now it's all logged in. It's all in one place. Now, on the insurance aspect, let's just say you get one of those inspections. They want your hood cleaned. They want your fire extinguishers, restamped. They want the different items around the restaurant actually taken care of, because it could be a fire hazard or a slip, a trip and fall hazard. So now this can all be sent to you through the app. And we're working on a program now where you can literally take, through the database and set an appointment right there on the app to send whomever out to come fix your problem, so that you're not chasing paperwork, getting back with your broker, and this and that. And then once it's done, it just streamlines right back into the carrier. So again, this app is going to be something that technologically based is going to help a lot of these establishments. We'll grow with the establishments when we see their needs and a lot of what their usage is. But I guarantee, just based on the ones that have used it so far and putting together their own training and their own menus, and it just buys them a lot of time. So the last part of this is the the saving of the camera footage. So we're going to have camera tech that will be able to implement inside your already existing cameras. And at the end of the day, we're going to be able to hold this for 5 years, and we're going to be able to recognize anything that could be a claim. So if there's water on the floor, we can alert a manager, hey, there's a wet area over here. If somebody does slip and fall, we're able to grab that incident through technology, and we'll grab it and we'll save it into a file, so that if and when that person were to sue a year later, even though they walked out on their own and they sue a year later because nobody works there anymore or nobody has an idea, we can have the data for that date and for that file. And I know, some of the rebuttal we get is, well, cameras, Big Brother. Look, people, you're on the internet. Your camera's watching you. You're on Instagram. You're on Facebook. We all have to really, in my opinion, just kind of understand that this is just the way that the future is going. And if you're not doing anything negligent or wrong at all, this can only help you, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I wrote down a bunch of stuff as you were talking, and it's really smart that I can see the perspective that you're bringing to the table and solving those things you've seen happen in the past. In a really interesting way. So question for you, because I see the guitars and I know you got the music background. Is the name any bit Sinatra related to your passion for music, or is it completely unrelated?
No, but look at my Eddie Van Halen picture I got. This is my home office, and my wife designed it, did a beautiful job. No, Sinatra. So my young partner grew up in New York. He's from New York, and he's just a big Frank Sinatra fan. And so he wanted to create, just the basically we were able to get it because it's technology and not music. So we wanted to be the voice, quote unquote, the voice of, hospitality. So. Okay.
All right. I had to ask because we won't dig into it now, but Dave's got a big, long back experience digging into the music world and whatnot. But instead of that, I want to dig into your podcast background. You've been getting very active with your own podcast. It has its own flair for hospitality, mixed with culture, mixed with your location and community. You do a lot in the Arizona marketplace in terms of speaking, events, boards, chairs, all that stuff. So what are you seeing out in the marketplace? What are you seeing from the speakers on your podcast? What else is going on out there?
Yeah, I have a passion for life and for business, and as much as I like to fight myself going, oh my God, I'm an insurance agent. At the end of the day, I'm very proud of what I've accomplished, what I've established, how I've created a niche and I think I would see myself more as an entrepreneur and a relationship specialist. And so I really enjoy talking to people. The only reason why I've had a successful business, well, number one is because of my employees. I can't do anything without, all 12 of them doing their job and really being, having that same practice that I have of just taking care of the client. It's about the relationship and what we sell, what a lot of people sell, like, payroll and banking and, all that stuff. It's all commoditized. So if you don't really have a passion or a niche or an understanding for what it is, for what you're doing in business, but let alone life, then it's like, what are we doing? So I get up every day with just a fire in my belly to not just want to necessarily help people just in insurance, but help connect them with many connections, many entrepreneurs. Like, I mean, even your, newsletter that I get on a daily basis, I forward over to entrepreneurs and, help re-promote and stuff like that, because it's added value. It's about giving value to people into their lives, into the moment that they may need it. And the podcast is great. I've been doing it, I think since 2018. I'm about 120 episodes in. And the whole goal of the podcast really is not just to have another podcast. Honestly, it's just to have fun. It's just to have people in my office and have a chat that I would probably have with them anyways. And I've built my whole business having coffee with people. Now, maybe 50% of those meetings never turned into anything, but I don't regret, having them, because you never know when they might turn into something. And if anything, at least you had a good conversation with somebody with good intentions. And that's just what life's about. It's to be like running into a stranger in line and, talking to them about something. So that's what the podcast is really about. And I bring people on that I think would have a either a value in the hospitality space, so that they can give some added value to my clients,
Yep.
because everybody has a story to tell and everybody's story is different. And I think you can learn from, people's story. I know you can learn from people's story if you're listening and you conceptualize it in, a way that maybe it could help you because you're not doing that now and you may want to try something like that. And then the other portion is just people that I like, people that have successful businesses that are entrepreneurs. I had my friend Michelle Claire, who's she's a channeler,
Okay.
spiritual channeler. I mean, it's great. It's fun to talk about this stuff. I mean, if we're not talking about it, what are we doing? So she was actually on George Nori on Gaia TV, which is really cool. So, it's just fun to have a little bit of fun in life and have some variety and just kind of just not just fit into the same box that I think a lot of us that are in business, even restaurateurs, it's like, hey, I'm just an Asian restaurant, or hey, I'm just a pizza place.
Yep.
Well, that might be the food that you serve, but at the end of the day, what's the community that you're serving and how are you doing it? And how are you, looking outside of that box of who you are to attract, everybody in there and not just people that like this or that. So
We were remiss in not naming the podcast. Where can they find it? What's the name of it?
yeah, it's on the D-Low. So it's just, on the D-Low. And then, it's everywhere you can get a podcast, Spotify, Apple, all that. I go through Anchor, which is now a Spotify product. So they just launch it out into everywhere. And then I have a YouTube channel at I Am the D-Low. Same with my Instagram. And on YouTube, all the podcasts are actually, the videos are on there and they're getting a lot of great movement on there. So they're fun to watch too, because we're just in the studio, just wrapping out, and they're only about a half hour each.
Yeah. You do a lot of social stuff as well, and you mentioned some of your tags there. And I've seen you speak recently. What do you see at those events? What's the vibe? What's the energy out there at the live events?
Yeah, so I just spoke at the Arizona Local Business Summit. So I'm very heavily ingrained into the local community here. I was born and raised in Arizona. My business is local. I prefer one-on-one with local restaurateurs. I insure 500 locations out here. Pretty much know all the owners. That's just how the niche that I've created and what I enjoy. So I went and I spoke at their thing, and they had asked me to speak about, and I'm speaking about a lot of stuff. So I have like three facets. What I get another engagement that is completely different from what I just spoke on. So the business thing was obviously about business, but it was about relationships and how important relationships are, creating relationships to build a business, all that sort of stuff. And it was great. It was a panel. The energy was amazing. It was absolutely packed, and it was just fun to have a little bit of humor, but also to storytell and to be vulnerable and just let people know that, this is something that if you build good relationships, you will build a good life. You will build a good business. Other things that I do speak on, and if you look on my social and you see a little bit more deeper into who, the person is, besides just, slugging you a policy, is that it's very important to me. And I just turned 50 this year, which was obviously it's a monumental age for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But when I look at the age of where I'm at now in the context of time compared to where I was, 10, 20, 30 years ago, it's not just I'm saying it because I'm here. And it's not that when I was 20, 30, or 40, it was worse or better. It just is what it is, right? So it's very important now to make sure that I'm still on top of my game, that I take care of myself. I wake up, super early. I get enough sleep. I work out. I eat clean. I do all these things that a lot of people will hear over and over, and what they would think they would just hear from like a fitness influencer. But at the end of the day, that's how I run my business. I want to be able to be set mind for my employees, for the people that I run into, that I engage to be able to give this energy, for an interview. I mean, it's really important, because I don't want to show up as a bag of trash for somebody that is depending on me to help protect their business or give them good advice to do stuff. And so the way I do that at this age is to really stay on top of, taking care of myself first and my family.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to ping you on that. I think I remember seeing that you hit the milestone. I hit it 9 months ago now. So it is a feeling. It is one of those dates that stick out. But I think I saw on your feed, you really took it. Hey, I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. And you already had that mentality ago. If you look back in Delo's feed, you'll see hiking and biking and running and like you're already fitness ready, but you kind of recommitted to it. Is that a fair statement? What do you think?
Oh yeah. I mean, again, no regrets, but there's probably a good 10, 15 years that I took off of, um, let's just say I was busy running restaurants myself and being in the hospitality industry. And I'm not saying this is everybody's situation. It was mine based on my personality and who I am. And so I'm type A. So if I go all in on one thing, good or bad, that's what I do. And so drinking, eating bad, staying up late, partying, getting to know people on the hospitality into things, that was just priority during that time. And I was, 25 pounds, 30 pounds overweight. And so I had reeled that in, come, 40, 41 years old, but I still wasn't quite exactly where I wanted to be. So I had given myself a challenge by 50.
Yeah.
I wanted to be completely shredded. And I got there and I went and I did a fitness show. I got all the
There you
fake
go.
spray tan, got my body fat down to 9%. And I weighed 144
Shoot.
pounds. And so
Mm,
that was back in October. So
mm.
it's fun to have had that goal, but now I just kind of maintain that. Like as of this morning, I'm 146 pounds. You know what I'm saying? But
Oh
I,
man.
I like just feeling good and knowing that, but I still go out and have fun. My wife and I went out and we ate too much on Sunday, and we just, knowing your who you are on the inside and what you can get away with and how you feel and understanding when you do certain things, you'll feel a certain way. I know that is a complete winning formula to really be able to progress personally, but in
Yeah.
business as well. So
Yeah, that's impressive. You making me feel a little guilty there. But also just to since we're in the topic, there's also bodybuilding in your family and history. There's that health side. I mean, is your dad still doing that?
yeah, so my dad had started the agency that I now own, and I've owned for about 15 years. Let him work there for a little bit, but he retired about 3 years ago. He primarily he did home and auto, and when the home and auto market just became more of a really high commodity, my dad's all
Sure.
about relationships, and that's where I
Mhm.
learned that from. I let him retire, so he now trains people at a place called Anytime Fitness, and he
Ah,
just trains them for free. I mean, it's just something to do.
oh wow. Yeah.
He's good monetarily, he's taken care of, and he's worked for it, and so now he gets to do that. And he actually sponsors fitness shows. He sponsored the one that I had actually competed in. He likes to go judge in them, and he's going to be 76
Nice.
this year, and he's still shredded, and you can see him on my feed as well, and we enjoy getting together once a week, every 2 weeks. And for me, and for I think some of you listening, that if you have older parents and you love them, it's
Mhm.
it's good to it's good to let them relax after a certain time, but don't let them relax too much. Make sure that I told them, I said, you can retire, but you got to have something else to do. You're just going to sit around. And he's always been motivated, so he works out every
Yeah.
day and trains people and does all that.
Good. 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 Well, D, we hit a lot. Anything we anything we didn't hit that you want to hit? Parting thoughts, closing thoughts, etc.
I have a very good, how do I say, feeling for the future for restaurants. I think if you embrace just your passion, embrace the people around you, embrace your relationships, embrace the up and coming technology, and just kind of do your research and really look into things and ask the questions, and just like we just talked about, just do things for yourself. Make sure that you're completing the story within you, so that you can go out and really just have fun in life and do all those things. That's what it's about all for me. And I can, want to continue that on for the rest of my life. And I don't see myself slowing down at all, because I'm really enjoying it, every single day. It's not work. So
Yeah.
thank you for having me.
Yeah, good. Appreciate that. We covered a lot. Folks, David DeLorenzo, barnrestaurantinsurance.com. We talked about Sinatra, the app. We talked about on the Delo. in the podcast store. So we'll try to put some of that stuff in the notes for the show if you didn't write it down yet. So check that stuff out. For more great restaurant marketing, service people, tech tips, and more, stay tuned to us here at runningrestaurants.com. Give us a like, give us a share, give us a review. That stuff really helps us. We appreciate it. And we'll see folks next time. Thanks, D'Lo.
Thanks, man. See you guys.